You know, when the Bible speaks on the Gibberim, it's often translated as mighty men. But one of the names or phrases that it can be ascribed to is heroes. Now, these heroes or heroes as we know them today are often told in movies. When you watch Marvel, you're watching the story of these heroes who are not a new invention. They've been around for ages. And these heroes have parents. And by the end of today's production, you're going to see that it has become quite apparent that their story has been told throughout the ages. It moved from being spoken by ancestors around fires, to written pages, to being played and acted out on stages. Today we're going to dive into the mystery of the Phantom of the Opera. Now, in the book Actors on Acting, Socrates tells people that in like manner the muse first of all inspires men herself, because they are inspired and possessed. They are simply inspired to utter that which the muse impels them. For not by art or knowledge do you say what you say, but by possession. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, do you not know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? A lot of these plays, when they were done in the auditorium, and before that, they were done in temples. Also, I'll have you know that before we got into the art of writing down lines and dialogue, the adherents of the plays or the initiates would often take mind-altering drugs, hallucinogens, and would allow the spirit that they wanted to conjure or invoke or evoke possess them, and they would speak as a vessel for the spirit unto the people. And their entire goal was to tell their story. They needed people to awe after them. They needed people to whore after them. They needed people to seek after them. And what better way to do so than to entertain people? No matter how phantasmagorical or how tragic it was. Because you see, these spirits initially rebelled against the Most High. And for a time in a season, their rebellion seemed to be going according to plan. But time and time again, it failed. It failed when they started it in heaven. When it got brought to earth, it also likewise failed before the flood. You can read about the gods going to war here in the Clash of the Titans and several other ancient manuscripts. After the flood, Nimrod tries to bring back this same order, but after getting super close, it too also fails. And with each attempt to win this futile war, they end up losing more and more. But one of the things they never had a loss for is human souls, the captivating of the minds throughout the times, through song and dance. Some of our first song and dances in humanity gave credit and told about and spoke about the gods. In some regions, they may be called the elder gods, the chosen ones, ascended masters, maybe even your ancestors. You're going to see this constant motif, however, of rise, champion, and then failure. The Greeks will call this Greek tragedy. Again, when you try to rise against the might of the Most High, you may live for a time and a season, but you will be put down for your high treason. Now, as man started to advance, so did our storytelling capabilities. Now, we wouldn't tell stories about the Most High and what He's done for us, at least not yet. What was in vogue again were the stories of these the heroes, the epics, the tales of all tales. And it would move from basic primitive campfire situations, and then when we got cities built, we would be in temples, magnificent edifices, designed for the gods to tell the story of the gods. And no play was complete without having vessels or initiates, what we now know as actors and actresses. These people's primary job was to channel the very essence and spirit of the deity that the play was about. This is where the costumes would enter in the chat, as would the masks, but more on that later. From the temples, again, it moved to the auditoriums and the sound stages, Broadway. And once man had the capability of recording and replaying back these plays, Broadway gave way to Hollywood. And these initiates actors or actresses would now be known as stars for the deity that they represented. And back then, one of the biggest things to know that you had made it was to see your name in lights. In the 1920s, in the heyday of filmmaking, if you will, there was one actress known as Mae West. And for the times, she was one of the most raunchy and foul actresses. And a lot of her dialogue was filled with hidden innuendos and debauchery. The thing about Mae West is that when she couldn't get a script written, she would call out to the forces to help her write a script. And this man to her right is her psychic, by the way, who would also help her in the act of automatic writing. The clip that you're about to hear are just some examples of the scripts being written by the spirits that she pulled from.
I have heard so much about you.
Yeah, but you can't prove it.
Haven't you ever met a man that can make you happy?
Sure. Lots of times.
What kind of husband does you think I should get?
I should take a single man, leave the husbands alone.
Aren't you forgetting that you're married?
I'm doing my best.
Well, what do you want to do, drive me to a madhouse?
No, I'll call you a taxi.
Be a man in your life.
What, only one?
I changed my mind.
Yeah, does it work any better?
I'll never forget you.
No one ever does.
I'm sorry you think more of your diamonds than you do of your soul.
I'm sorry you think more of my soul than you do of my diamonds.
Form divine.
Wait a minute. Is this a proposal or you taking inventory?
You certainly know the way to a man's heart.
Funny, too, because I don't know how to cook. Caught between two evils, I generally like to take the one I never tried.
Now, take care of these men.
Yes, give them all my address.
I wonder what kind of a woman you really are.
Too bad, but I can't give out samples.
Not that she would call on the forces, we read in this book on page 89, she would begin to hear voices and images as the plot was revealed to her. Mae would summon stenographers, these are people who write, by the way, to work with her around the clock as she would lie in bed in a trance-like state, dictating as the spirits entered. And it doesn't stop with Mae. A lot of the movies stemming and starting from plays are done this way, which means that a lot of what we consume may indeed come from unclean spirits that we unknowingly entertain. We buy the merchandise. We follow the actors, actresses, because they have now become so venerated that they have star power. By one wave of the hand, they can make people faint and pass out. People tremble, they cry, they urinate themselves. They experience loss of speech. And you too can have this, if you want it bad enough. You just have to open yourself up and allow them to possess you. But these fallen have to take their cue from their commander-in-chief, who himself wants to tell this story over and over and over again. When you watch a lot of these movies, they always speak about a chosen one. But Lucifer himself feels that he is what should have been the chosen one. Remember, he wanted to be like the Most High and corrupted his splendor in the process of rebelling. But Lucifer feels like he was wrongly judged and misunderstood in this whole grand scheme of things. And this is what he's going to, I guess, use as his defense come the day of judgment. Well, we'll see how that plays out. But also likewise, those who followed him, they too believed that they were wrongly judged and just are misunderstood. His descendants, if you will. And if you look at the Disney franchise, The Descendants, that's exactly what it's about. These are all the children of the evil, wicked villains in all the popular Disney movies. And for most of the movie, they do not abandon their evil ways that they inherited from the evil parents. They're just, misunderstood. And then what the children of Lucifer do is seek others, specifically from certain bloodlines, or those who are willing to make themselves open vessels. Take, for instance, Hugh Jackman, who didn't start out as an actor, by the way.
It's interesting, your path to acting, because you were a journalism student, weren't you?
Until I discovered things like ethics in journalism, and that was the last class I had, was just putting it off. So I took a few part-time classes and worked at a gym. And at the gym, I met this woman who, this isn't a lie, it sounds like a made-up story, but I was actually joining her up, and she was looking at me and she just went, like that. I said, is everything all right? She said, you don't understand, I'm a white witch. You've got to get into acting. Immediately. I said, well, I'm doing a few part-time classes. Funny you should mention it. She said, no, you're going to be a big star, and I want you to meet this woman, Penny Williams. I said, who's Penny Williams? She says, she's an agent. Well, I met her, and she's still my agent, and the day after, I did an audition and landed a role on Neighbours. So all of a sudden I thought, oh my God, this is White Witch is true.
And all your dreams came true in a sense because Trevor Nunn spotted you and Oklahoma at the National Theatre.
Yeah.
Oklahoma at the National Theatre.
It was a magical time. I mean, Maureen Lipman was in it, and there we were, the National, all the other great players, and I really felt like that's it, I could retire now.
It was a great part too. It was a great production as well. Where do you get that singing voice from? I mean, 'cause you didn't have any training, did you?
I'd had no training. In fact, when I went to drama school, there was a musical theatre course, so I didn't do the musical, I just did theatre.
So literally, after he makes the phone call, he gets his first gig, and he's been a household name since, huh? You know, it's almost as if these spirits know exactly who they can foster and work through, and they pick them early. And then these actors and actresses are used as tools to spread the word and the message. But dig, so does the Most High. If you've ever chased after something in life, a goal, a career path, anything, and it just never really stuck, could be because the Most High has something planned for you, and that ain't it. Now, theater always consisted of two main core elements, and that was one, storytelling. The other was song and dance. As technology seemed to increase, those two elements kind of split and became their own factions. The song and dance element from theater became what we know as the music industry, where then the orchestra, the band players, the operatic singers, and the background vocalists, they can all just place a concerted effort on delivering the best musical compositions you've ever heard. And likewise with the actors and actresses, they too became their own stars. Now, they may not always been able to sing and dance, but in the early years of entertainment, the talent had to be able to both sing, dance, and act. But again, as we move from traditional theater into the big screen and the big stages, those two elements split. The information these days is very easy to come by. When you just do a quick Google search and ask, what does a medium mean in a person? It says, however, similar to psychic, medium can also mean a person through whom the spirits of the dead are alleged to be able to contact the living. When you go and just type in the word medium, I want you to look at some of the similar adjectives. You have form, agency, channel, avenue, approach, vehicle, voice, organ, instrument, implement, mechanisms, apparatus, instrumentality. These are some of the ways that these spirits can communicate from their realm to ours. And they need a vessel, a medium, someone to bridge the gap. They can use organs, they can use voices, they can use instruments. And when you have multiple forms of medium, the plural form of that is known as media. What is media? Media is broadcasting, publishing, and the internet. These are all regarded collectively as media. So again, ask yourself, is this blind entertainment that we're being given from these actors and actresses, starting from theater, or is it a form of clairvoyance, or of these spirits working through these people who have lined themselves up to get down? But if you need proof that these actors and actresses are indeed channeling spirits and being taken over, some with detrimental stories, listen to it from their own mouths.
Women that basically I'm getting mistaken for one. And no, really, I'm very clear about the fact that I'm the vessel for other people's stories and other women's lives.
I try to allow the spirit of the character to live through me. So I just try to encompass and allow myself, I'm almost the vehicle to channel the spirit of the character through.
Oscar award-winning actor Denzel Washington told 60 Minutes exactly how he brings forth his best performances.
Basically what I did was got on my knees and sort of communicated with the spirits. And when I came out, I was in charge.
Powerful scene.
Powerful scene. I couldn't have acted that. I couldn't have written that down and made a decision to play that.
As well.
It's like you're writing a treatment. I finally called cut. I go, Denzel. I said, Denzel, where did that come from? I mean, you went on 5 minutes after what was scripted. He said, Spike, I don't know.
When people ask me,
Who is my role model in this business? I say you, Jack. I think why you're my role model has to do with the way you relate to vanity, or the lack of it. I mean, I have to tell you, I just adore the fact that you don't care how you look. I adore how you commit to the part. You don't care about your little bald spots. You don't care about your stomach. Remember that wonderful stomach. You don't care about your wrinkles. This is all extremely important to me. Doing a love scene with Jack Nicholson is absolute middle-aged bliss. I mean, to lie in bed and rehearse a love scene, it's so funny, it's so spontaneous, it's so open. We're lying in bed and we're rehearsing the astronaut Garrett Reed love scene. He's explaining to Aurora what it was like to walk on the moon. She's loving it. And then we launched into the first take, and 2 voices came out of you. Do you remember this? 2 voices, and they were simultaneous words, but they were 2 levels of sound. And I looked over at you. You were amazed. I was amazed, and you said, "Well, sure, Cheryl, I'm many different people." I said, "No, Jack, you're channeling."
You've developed an acting discipline that you've referred to as nouveau shamanic. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What are the core principles?
I've been told that all actors really hail from the early medicine men and the shamans in the villages pre-Christianity, where they would put on masks and act out, and really they were probably pretty crazy, but they would go in and find answers to questions. Today you're called psychotic if you do that. But it's all semantics. So what I would do is I'd put on Afro-Caribbean paint, like a white and black paint, and black out my eyes so I look like this sort of Afro-Caribbean voodoo icon. And then I would sew in bits of Egyptian artifacts that were thousands of years old into my costume and gather some onyx or tourmaline or something that was meant to have vibrations. And who knows if it works or doesn't, but for me it was an idea of like trying to stimulate my mind, or trick my mind into believing I was this character from another dimension. And I would walk on the set and then wouldn't speak to anybody, wouldn't say a word, so I projected this aura of horror, which created fear in my fellow actors, which then inspired me to believe I really was this character.
He said, it's literally like possession. All of a sudden you're in and you get this energy and it starts going. And later on in the article, he says, but there is also this thing, it is possession. In the olden days, you'd have been burned for it, but there's something empowering about it. I mean, it's a place where you can be a Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, where you can actually become this other force. Leonardo DiCaprio was in a movie called Total Eclipse. The director, Anisco Holland, said this about Leo. Leo's like a medium. He opens his body and his mind to receive messages coming from another person's life.
How are so many of Hollywood's most famous actors and actresses able to be so amazingly effective and convincing in their performances?
That guy was so electrifying that it came through the television.
How is it that they can move us to laughter, tears, or anger at the drop of a hat? Are they truly gifted with natural talent, as many suggest?
You see this and you're dazzled by their talent.
Do they possess a creative streak of genius that is unknown to most men? Or unknown to most men, are they in fact possessed? Is it possible that these actors and actresses are possessed by demonic spirits who have a specific agenda to fulfill? The one-woman entertainment empire known as Oprah has strong affiliations with the demonic realm. The most familiar face on television says,
"You can not only use your body and physical self. This is how I see acting. I ask my body to be the carrier for the spirits of those who have come before me in a way that is most meaningful to the character. Just become the vehicle for that character."
Calling out for these entities to take her over so that she may become a sparkling puppet, Oprah admits of her work before the camera.
I tried to empty myself and let the spirit inhabit me.
With her global influence, her shows have become a smorgasbord for the New Age agenda.
Very spiritual what we do as actors. You're on the set, you have your chakras all open, you're allowing this character to use your body as a vessel. And so you have to learn how to flip the switch on and flip it off. Otherwise, it could drive you mad. Because it's spiritual what we do. You understand?
Yeah.
We allow these characters and these stories to use our bodies as a vessel. That is a real, like if you think about it, that's you allowing this other energy.
You know, instead of allowing that spirit, you know, but I sit up and I'll pray for a little bit and go in a dark place, go in the bathroom, turn off the lights, look in the mirror. We'll have the light on at first, and then after 1 minute, turn the light off and, you know, and search until you see your own glow, your own aura, and then you watch it change.
Wow.
And it's a scary thing because you'll feel like some hands are on you and you lose a little bit of control of what you're doing. But, you know, if you stay with it, you know, you'll be inhabited by something, and then you walk out and the character's with you, and you got to know how to say goodbye to it. Right. If you really want it.
Yeah.
I remember sometime we do 10 episodes for my show, and in this last season, I was hitting a block, right? I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right? So I went in the corner, and then I was looking at the wall, and I was like, come on, devil, right? Come to me, because I had to do something like crazy, right? Had nightmares for a month. So it does come
to it or after?
After. Like I had nightmares every day. Like I felt that energy.
Oh, interesting.
You know, and I had to pray and do all this stuff to like get rid of it. And you know, you call your mom up and you're like, bring me back to life. And that stuff is real. That stuff really is real.
I think I was kidding myself.
Johnny Depp told Vanity Fair, I know I have demons, and I don't know if I want to get rid of them altogether. I would like to experience them in a different way. So how about Marlon Brando?
Heard of him.
Yeah, he said something really interesting about acting. Listen to what he says about it.
Why do you downgrade acting as a profession? You know, you've said over the years it's not a fit profession for a man.
People lie constantly, every day, by not saying something that they think, or saying something that they don't think, or showing something that they don't feel, or trying to give the appearance of feeling something that they don't actually. I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's not acting.
That is acting.
Johnny Depp is a real big fan of Marlon Brando. And so the topic comes up of what Marlon Brando said about acting. Listen to how Johnny Depp answers this.
It is a weird profession.
As Marlon said, Marlon had the best definition of acting that exists, you know. It's a strange job for a grown man. And that's it.
Do that good.
It's a strange job for a grown man. That's right?
But he called something else that people in the business got mad at. He said it on our show. He called it lying for a living.
Right.
And most actors say they're not lying. Did you think that was an unfair expression?
I think it's totally right. Yeah, it's lying. It is lying. Why wouldn't it be? You can make it lying. You can make it not lying. You know, you can find your own truth, but it's still a lie. You know what I mean? You're going to go to the craft service table. You're not Henry VIII, man. You're going to have some Fritos or whatever, man. You know.
Have a donut and then go, yeah.
Right? You know, he's not going to like eat a giant chicken leg and chuck it somewhere and start screaming wench, right? You know.
So Jim.
Yes.
What does Christmas mean to you?
Every movie I've gotten in my life, I could tell you how that was the absolute manifestation of my consciousness at that time.
I'm the Grinch that stole Christmas.
When I heard I had the part,
Please welcome Jim Carrey!
it's as if I went into a fugue state
Being the Grinch, right?
and Hyde showed up.
That story is just such a part of Christmas, so yeah, it was incredibly important not to screw it up.
What happened after was out of my control. It was not me. I was not making choices based on what Jim does.
Here's your motivation.
He felt it was necessary for him to stay in the character.
We'll improvise. Just keep it kind of loosey-goosey.
At some point, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Sit down. I'll be doing my movie."
Action!
The attitude was already there. And when you put that makeup on, there's no choice. That nose, the jowls. Universal, they didn't want the footage we took behind the scenes to surface so that people wouldn't think I was an asshole.
You're going to have people that are going to sue this production for mental stress.
Yeah, there's feelings of guilt, feelings like, damn, I lost control again. To him. It was absurd. It was completely absurd. And some of it becomes a little bit real. When the movie was over, I couldn't remember who I was anymore.
I'm the Grinch. I'm the Grinch.
So you step through the door not knowing what's on the other side. What's on the other side is everything. I know him as well as I can know him. But who do you know, even when they're right in front of you?
Our culture is completely obsessed with celebrities. Each year when the Oscars rolls around, we got about 30 to 40 million people that tune in to watch their favorite films being honored for Best Picture, Craftsman, Artistry. We call it the Oscars, and people are obsessed with it. There's a lot of these different award shows that pop up throughout the year. There's the Grammys, the Emmys. They honor different aspects of the entertainment industry, but they are all one in the same. Now listen to what Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert call this little image that they give to each other.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Good evening, godless sodomites.
What are you doing?
I'm bringing the truth, John. We're in Hollywood, the belly of the beast.
You can't just read the prompter?
I'm reading the prompter in here. You can read that pablum.
Award show banter is not pablum. Reality television celebrates the human condition. By illuminating what's extraordinary in the ordinary person. We're here to honor achievement in that category.
By giving you a golden idol to worship. Kneel before your God, Babylon!
Well, this year, and I'm thankful to the Oscar gods, we have a great crop of films.
You are, of course, nominated this evening. How does it feel being nominated tonight?
Always an incredible honor. The other names of the gentlemen are all gods as far as the category concerned.
And then these actors, who are indeed in the physical liars, they're rewarded with an idol. And this idol symbolizes that you are indeed a good prostitute for the deity to inhabit, to run all through you, to use you. And the people creating these things do not just pull this design out of any place. It's deliberately modeled after a deity. Now here we're told that Ptah was a prominent god in ancient Egyptian religion, revered as a creator god and the patron of craftsmen, architects, and artists. So this makes sense why the powers that be in New Babylon would use this deity out of all of them to symbolize an artist or an actor reaching the next pinnacle of their career. When they do this though, as we know, they become a star.
And when you get this little golden statue, you become a star. What's interesting about this is in the Egyptian culture, they also had a little statue that represented the god Ptah. And see, when an Egyptian king died, it was believed that his spirit went into the belt of Orion and he then became a star. Very interesting that we still follow after Egyptian gods.
Interestingly enough, the Bible does actually mention both Orion and the Pleiades. In Amos 5:8, it states, "He who made the Pleiades and Orion, who turns shadows of death into the morning and darkens day into night, who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth, the Lord is his name." You get to Job 9:9, states, "He is the maker of the bear and Orion, the Pleiades and the constellations of the south." Now, when you quickly just Google Orion and Pleiades, we read that Orion and the Pleiades, which is they're known as seven sisters, are both prominent astronomical objects easily found in the night sky. It says Orion is a famous constellation while the Pleiades are an open star cluster. In Greek mythology, the Pleiades were pursued by Orion, and Zeus transformed them into doves and then stars to protect them. Okay, this is the Greeks trying to interpret what took place many moons ago before their society became such. What we do know is that Orion is known here as the hunter, and we've seen this motif before. There's a man in Genesis also known as the hunter. His name is Nimrod. And Nimrod seeks to unify Satan's kingdom, which was put in shambles, again, before the flood, what we know as the Clash of the Titans. And Nimrod has to work his way up and beat out all his kinfolk to be the top dog. And he does just that. And the ancients and the pagans believe that Nimrod himself is deified and has now become a star. Some say it's Ceres, the dog star, which is one of the brightest stars. But I'm saying that if Yahweh creates it, then you can expect Lucifer to try to pervert or invert or distort it. But again, this award is given out at the show known as the Oscars. When you look up the word Oscar, we're told that it's rooted in Irish culture and folklore. Oscar is a boar's name that means God's spear, deer lover, or champion warrior. And so this is a hunter we're talking about, a boy hunter. Again, who could we point this to in scripture? Who would fit that mold? Also, these people would tell you that Hollywood is the new Babylon and it's filled with sodomites. And the interesting thing about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah is that one of their customs says that when a new man comes into town, when new talent, when new anything comes into town, all of the people of prominence gotta get a piece of that sweet tail. They gotta get some of them Judy cakes. They gotta get some of them honey buns. And they don't care if it's male, female, a little girl, a little boy, they don't care. They gotta get that. They gotta have sexual intercourse with that. And do you know that Hollywood has the same thing? They call it the casting couch. Will Smith had to get down with it. Any of your favorite actors, actresses, anyone of prominence had to bend over. Some of the most manliest men that they portrayed to us have been, at one point in time, biting a pillow, bent over in a very compromising position. For you ladies, a lot of the men that you swoon and cry and lush and gush over, in fact, don't even like women. And if you knew some of the things that they were involved in or allowed to happen to them to get to where they're at, you might not have wanted them either. Or, I don't know, maybe you still would. What I'm saying is that if you knew the truth, however, it would very much so shock you. We are seeing a return of the old pagan religious system that was put in place back in the days of old, and they're coming out by the droves.
Here tonight, as all of us are, to pay tribute to an American icon, an actor, a filmmaker, and truly one of my personal heroes, Mr. Clint Eastwood. I'm also here because the AFI is paying me $20,003, making me the highest paid megalomaniacal boy king in all of Babylon!
We're gonna run the unedited version.
What?
And be warned for you people, you may be offended, maybe. Watch.
Now look, a lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God now!
You may be thinking that the homosexual activity is something that's only new to the film industry, but I tell you differently. Remember that the film and the music industry are children of the theater. And when theater was done, no women could act or perform in theater. So when you had roles that had to be performed by women, guess who that was? That was men dressed in drag. Now we know as Hebrews, we cannot don women's garments being that we are a man. But the Greeks did this out in public. People would pay to see this. And they learned it from the Egyptians, who learned it from the Babylonians and so forth. The deities that they worship are androgynous. So when they sought to emulate these gods, they too took on the form of androgyny. And of course, hermaphroditus, where we get the word hermaphrodite from, was the product of two of these gods copulating and producing an offspring. It says here that hermaphroditus is the god of androgyny and effeminate men. And again, ladies, I tell you that most of the men that are put before your faces, your R&B singers, your actors, your whomever, if you see them on TV, if they indeed have become a star, you know what they have to do to get there. There are people who follow an actor's career as they move from movie to movie, or from movie to theater, or from theater to live shows, or from live shows to residencies. They follow the actor simply because they just love the actor. It may not be the actor you're loving though. It may be the spirit that the actor possesses that you then become seduced by. There are people who watch movies, they have no interest in the plot of the movie. They only watch the movie because their favorite actor or artist is in the movie, or production, or show, or play. But these prominent people, the ones who are the top tier, they're your favorite actors, have all told you what they do to prepare for a role. Yet you're still going to whore after them. Come out of Babylon. But speaking of Babylon, when you look at theater, especially Greek theater, we often see the motif of the masks. But they did not originate in Greece. As a matter of fact, the Babylonians, no surprise there, were some of the first to don the masks. In the religious masquerade by the New Oxford Review, we read that priests who wore a mask of a god during a ceremony would instantly become an avatar of that god. We discussed this earlier. It says an embodiment of the god himself, speaking his words and conveying his will. The ancient Babylonians worshipped Dagon. Of course, the reason why the Greco-Roman aspect of life is put on front and center is because our world is an adoption of theirs. But if you examine their world, you will easily come to the conclusion that their world was an adoption of Egyptian, whose world was an adoption of the Babylonians. Our roads lead back to Babylon, which is why we need to come out of it, no matter how it's dressed up. But back to these masks. You know, in the book of Jeremiah, we read that the customs of the people are vain. The word custom and costume is a spell on spelling. No custom for the paganized mind of the peoples will be complete without a costume. This is where the masks come in. When Jim Carrey puts on the mask, he becomes anything he wants to. It gives him these powers that allow him to become superhuman, in a sense, almost like a god himself. But as with all things, the more you give yourself into it or over to it, the harder it is to break through it. You know, in Romans chapter 6, verse 16, we read, "Don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to life or righteousness. But the choice is yours." You do understand that, right? And so you have a lot of people who have inadvertently or advertently given themselves to slavery over to something that leads to death. Now the enemy knows it. He's just hoping that you will never know it. And he's hoping that we don't expose it. But of course, that's what we do here. Now you're going to keep seeing this motif that when you put on this mask, this costume for the custom of these deities, they slowly start to take one's soul, starting with the body, and then working its way inward. They start to take it over, and it becomes consuming. This is why when these people play these roles, whether they have an outward mask or they inwardly become that thing, the possession always becomes prevalent. They want to possess you.
Cousin, she's got the flu. She couldn't go trick-or-treating tonight. Oh, gotta get this mask off. It's boiling inside. Good idea. Madam. Ouch. Carly Beth, what is it? The mask. It won't come off. Really? Can't get it off? It's like it's stuck to my skin. Well, it's gonna sound pretty dumb if we have to call the fire department to come get you. Shut up and help me! You really are stuck, aren't you? Oh, please be very gentle. It really hurts. Maybe we can cut it off, like with scissors or a knife. No. That's too dangerous. I don't care, Sabrina. I'm freaking out here. Look. One more try, and then we'll ask my mom to help cut it off. Okay. There must be a place I can reach down and... Ow. Oh. What's the matter? There's no bottom to this mask. There's no line in between the mask and your skin. There's no place I can reach my hand in. That's crazy. That's just crazy. Oh no, Sabrina. There's no line. There's no line here. I'm gonna tell my mom. Those eyes. Those eyes in the mirror. What about them? They're not my eyes, Sabrina. My eyes don't look like that. Try to calm down, Cully Beth. Those aren't my eyes. Where are my eyes? Where am I? You're scaring me. This isn't me. This isn't me in here. Cully Beth. Cully Beth, come back.
And anything that you receive from these deities will always come with a hefty cost, typically ending in death. This is how the Phantom of the Opera gets his start. He makes a deal with the devil. In the earliest versions, they cut this one out of the newer ones, but in the earliest versions and the adaptations, he makes a deal with the devil, sitting next to his piano. But it cost him his looks, and then ultimately it cost him his soul.
For my music, what would you give for your music to live forever, like Beethoven, Mozart, the immortals?
Anything, I'd give everything.
Would you wed your soul with the devil?
Yes.
Yes. The world will love you for your music, but that's all it will love you for.
But who would be the god of the opera? The Phantom of the Opera. It's a mystery, but no, not entirely. There's a god known as Dionysus.
Did you know that Dionysus was not your average god? He was the life of the divine party. Dionysus was the Greek god of wine, ecstasy, and theater. He represented the joys and chaos of life itself. The god of wine, he was often depicted with a goblet in hand, celebrating the pleasures of the vine. But his domain extended beyond wine. Dionysus was also the patron of ecstasy and revelry, where inhibitions melted away and pure euphoria reigned. And that's not all. Dionysus had a strong connection to the theater. Greek tragedies and comedies were often performed in his honor.
Now, through wine and merriment, it is said that he gave mankind the art of theater. And again, when the art of theater came, the only thing that people were telling and retelling was a story of these deities. In your Wikipedia, we read that wine was a religious focus in the court of Dionysus and was his earthly incarnation. Wine could ease suffering, bring joy, and inspire divine madness. And many people like to get crazy. Festivals of Dionysus included the performance of sacred dramas. These are the plays, by the way, enacting his myths, the initial driving force behind the development of theater in Western culture. The cult of Dionysus is also a cult of the souls. His Smynades, which were his groupies, as every famous person would have, feed the dead through blood offerings, and he acts as a divine communicant between the living and the dead. He is sometimes categorized as a dying and rising god. But again, it's no different with sports. All of the Olympic Games were done to honor the deities. Am I telling you to throw away your pigskin ball or your basketball? No. Am I telling you to throw away your tickets that you got to the show for this Friday? No. What I am telling you, however, is to go into it with new eyes, new ears, one that are not blind to what's so near. Do no longer be ignorant of the devices that smear. This is the information given so that you can get information. And then you go into prayer and ask your Father, what would he have you do? What would he have you sing? What would he have you see? What would he have you view?
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not available. At the tone, please record your message.
This is a representative of the Most High calling to ask about your soul. Are you going to pick up?